Sausage.
Hello, and welcome to not the Pixelated Sausage Show, but Attack the Backlog with me, your host, Megarachnoid. So getting used to this whole new format? This is, of course, the show where I, as I just said my name, Megarachnoid, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. The previous series of episodes was all about Ghost Recon Wildlands in the reboot of this here show, and this second string of episodes, which will probably just be 2 episodes, is all about the Ascent. The Ascent, which is an action RPG twin stick shooter a la Diablo, to really dumb it down. But instead of hacking and slashing, you're twinning and shooting, and instead of being set in a fantasy world full of fantastical things, you're in a cyberpunk world full of cyberpunkian things. But no Keanu Reeves to be found, sadly. Or happily. You may not like Keanu Reeves. Not everyone likes him. You're wonderful, what'd he say? You're something. You're something alright, Keanu. He seems like a very nice guy. What'd I say there? But this is for the Ascent, which I've played about 5-ish hours of. I've done a handful of side missions and just beat the spider Megarachnoid, or whatever its name was, boss, which was a pain in the ass. I'm playing this solo, which is fairly viable until you get to that boss. I've been playing on normal until the boss, where I dropped it down to easy. But you can also play co-op, I believe locally and online, but solo for me. And let us get to my initial thoughts. So, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this game, because it does some things, important things, very, very right, and then does other things. It's not even that it does certain other things wrong, it just didn't need to bother doing quite a few things, and it's a bit of a bummer that they did that and bloated the experience. But the first thing I want to point out is that this is on all platforms now, I believe, or at least PlayStation as well, but this did originally launch as an Xbox exclusive, if my memory is correct, and that is where I'm playing it on the Series X. It does not have quick resume. I don't see many games that don't have quick resume, even games that don't really have the ability to take advantage of them because they're online always and are connected to the server, so when you change games, that connection is not going to be there anymore. But this just does not have quick resume at all, which was a bit of a weird early realization. The second thing is the story is pretty immediately forgettable, and I started skipping dialogue very quickly. I found the way dialogue works and how you talk to people, like a lot of these RPGs where you'll get a list of various bits of information, points of interest that you can ask someone about. They don't change the color, they don't get desaturated, or the opacity drops, or you get a filter over it or something that indicates you've already asked that question. They just stay the same, which I just thought was a little detail that was a bit of a bummer. But then again, I didn't care about the story, so who really cares? Not me, obviously, but you might care about that. But the thing about the story that I do want to mention is one of the main characters is named Poone. Poone. I don't like this. I don't know why they named one of the main characters, whose name you hear a lot, Poone. You hear Poone a lot in this. So Sonny, you're going to love this game because there's Poone all over the place. And that just, it's like, oh, that's a choice. I always wonder when developers, writers, etc. come up with names. Do they not know what they're getting themselves into? Or are they doing it on purpose? Is it a cheeky thing? Is it a it's just funny. But to move on to the good of the game before I get to some more of the bad. I think it plays incredibly well. I'm a big fan of twin stick shooters. I did compare it to Diablo in sort of the structure, though it more so like the earlier Diablo, since 4 is more open world-y. It is a bit of an open world, and I don't want to get to any of the bad first. The closer comparisons probably would be the Dead Nation and Alien Nation, I think was the other one. Games from Housemarque. In that it is a twin stick shooter, yes, but it's bigger than something you might see from Head Up Games or 10 Tons Limited, like a Neon Chrome, etc. And it feels real good. The shooting is satisfying. The leveling up system of the RPG side of things is pretty bare bones. You don't get to add additional skills that way, but you can through augments and your weapons. But the leveling up is just, here, you want some more health? You want better accuracy? You want faster reloads? Stuff of that nature. But it does improve the way it feels by leveling up those stats. The core shooting feels really good, and the various weapons from pistols to machine guns, rocket launchers, shotguns, and I think there are energy weapons, but I've not used one of those yet. I've focused primarily on my SMG, which I've leveled up quite a bit. It's all very satisfying, and you have, like I just alluded to, or not alluded to, but mentioned, you do have augments that are either passive or active. The passive ones do stuff like let you heal more from drops or heal faster, or active ones like a super powerful punch. And you have a tactile weapon in addition to your firearms. That could be a grenade or calling in a drone type of thing that'll put people in stasis so you can easily damage them. And then you also have a dive/roll, whatever you want to call it, which is great. And I am always a fan of being able to dive and roll to avoid damage. So the core gameplay of twin stick shooting feels really, really good. One little wrinkle to that is that there is this ability to use cover. So there's a cover system, which just means if you are behind cover and you crouch, you won't be hit, and then you can press the left trigger on an Xbox controller to shoot high, so you can shoot above cover. This would be nice in a more tactical type of game, but since this does fall into the arcadey side of things where enemies will spawn in from all directions, so behind you, on the sides, and all over the place, it makes using cover not very viable because it's so fast and there are enemies in all directions. And enemies love jumping over rails. They love hanging off rails and then climbing up. My God, are they just hanging all over the place? It's ridiculous. And they must have some very strong forearm strength. But that feels really, really good. And the world is beautiful. It ran pretty well for the most part. There's occasional hitching here and there, but overall it runs very well. The worst performing parts of the game are loading screens where you are on an elevator or a train and you're just moving through there, and it hitches quite a bit, very noticeably as well. But that doesn't really matter. That's not any of the gameplay or anything. But the world itself is very beautiful. It's incredibly dense. and it makes me want to learn more about it and explore it. But that is where one of the main problems comes. The world, while dense and beautiful, is full of nothing. It's full of a lot of stuff while also being full of nothing. You have all these people that are scattered throughout the areas. They don't really do anything. You might see some text pop up here and there where people just swear, but that's not that interesting. And while there are side missions to do, they're not organic. They don't feel like they're part of the world. They just feel like regular missions that may be smaller in scale. So you'll be in a more hubby world, not a wifey world, where you'll get your main missions, but then there'll be people who have side missions for you to do in various areas of the world. This world takes place on 3 different tiers: your upper area, your mid area, and your lower area. And there is a lower area that's flooded, and that, while being a new game, that water that you can walk through doesn't look as good as the water in Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. That game just was punching way above its weight water-wise, water tech. Some of the best water in the business, still to this day. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. But the rest of that game does not hold up. But there's just nothing to really do in the world, and the characters that fill it aren't interesting. There's one dude with a weird name that I get a kick out of, but there's only so much that Poone can do to keep you engaged. Truer words have never been said. But it bums me out because I see all this effort that's been put in this world that looks incredible, and it feels like a lot of this effort has been for naught. And it leads to this very beautiful and big world that you are traversing through and walking through to get to the next mission or objective. And then you start to hate the world because you have to walk through all of it, and it's tedious. It becomes quite tedious. Yes, there are some fast travel systems that you learn about pretty early. There's a metro system that'll take you to certain spots on a specific tier, and a taxi system, but I will never use the taxi system out of principle because it's not free, and I don't want to pay to fast travel. So I've just been walking pretty much everywhere while using the metro occasionally. So that's on me and my stubbornness, but still, don't like that all that much. Back to the shooting, I do also appreciate that the only thing you have to worry about is reloading, so how much ammo you have left in the clip. You don't have to worry about how much ammo you have because you have unlimited ammo. It's just having to reload your gun when a clip is empty. And you do have to at least let off the trigger if you are using, say, a machine gun and you use a whole clip. It's not going to automatically reload if you keep holding the trigger down. It'll just keep firing an empty clip. That's something to note as well, which is fine. That follows. That checks out. But it's a really fun game that is already getting tiring because of how much nothing there is between action. And they do try and spice it up with a lot of random encounters, which get annoying in the same way that while I love every Yakuza game, there comes a point in every Yakuza game where I start avoiding all of the random fights because I just want to get on with the game, and those things just get in the way. And that happens in the Ascent, but much, much faster. In part because sometimes the thing about the game is that it's relatively manageable solo on normal. I didn't have a problem pretty much at all, even with enemies who are way above my level, 6 to 8 levels higher than me, regular enemies. But that freaking, I don't know if that robot spider was just an outlier and is especially cheap and just frustrating and the worst, but it went from I'm enjoying this game to what the heck, I have to drop this on easy, and that really bothered me. But I don't want to Google it and see if that's an outlier because I want to stay as fresh and as untainted as I can when talking about games and the like. But that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I really like playing the game, but it is also getting kind of old already, and I think I'm roughly, probably not quite halfway through, but close, because I did get a bit of a late start this week. So I will finish it, unless something crazy happens or it's way longer than I think it is, by next week. For now, though, it's good, but I think it could be great if I really just wish they didn't go this open world you can explore, but what really is there to explore route, and instead made it more level based and just had a singular hub world and then various points that you could leave, kind of like, to reference a weird game, I'm sure there are better references, but the 2010, I think it was, Wolfenstein game from Raven. It's not Ravensoft. Is it just Raven Studios? Raven. But I really like that Wolfenstein game a lot. I think it got kind of middle of the road reviews, but I really like that game. And the way it worked was you had this hub world where you could explore and find collectibles and stuff like that. That was full of random enemies for you to take out while doing all of that. But then when you went on missions, you would go off to a different area. You'd load to a level, basically. And I wish the Ascent was structured that way instead of it being this open area that involves a lot of walking or fast traveling if you get to a metro station or you want to use the taxi system, which still is limiting. And that reminds me, I do wish you could sprint in the game, but there is no sprinting. You have a light jog-ish kind of that you move. You don't walk slowly, but you could move faster, I'm saying. And there's the usual customization options. You can, if you like the way certain things look, you can transmogrify them, whatever the hell that word is, to make it so you can get better equipment, but always look the way you want to. And weapons, upgrade them. You do that. Things to find. I do think one of the things that makes it frustrating at times is that it seems like mechanical enemies don't drop health as often as organic enemies. And I was going to say, I guess that makes sense because they're not going to be full of blood, but it's not like you're getting the blood of a person. They're dropping health packs, and in some cases I think they might be dropping blood packs, but who needs sense? So that sometimes becomes frustrating when fighting more of the mechanical enemies. But so far I am enjoying it overall when I am actually in fights. When I'm in battles outside of fighting a giant mechanical spider, it feels really good. There's a decent challenge on normal, but it's never too frustrating outside of mechanical spider. You suck, you little bastard. So I am interested in where the game goes from here. If it's just more of the same, which is what I'm kind of feeling. But even if that is the case, it's a solid time. It's a solid time. And hopefully, if it is just more of the same, it doesn't go on way longer than I'm expecting. If this is a 12-ish hour game, 10, 12 hour, that's fine. It's fine. But if this is pushing 18 hours, which it could with me the way I play some games, then we're going to be feeling it a bit more. But that will do it for this year episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, I am Marcus, and as y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoyed this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS, where you get random drops where I'll do something like a James Cameron tier list where, guess what, the avatars aren't on top and the Titanic isn't on top either. Is it the Titanic or just Titanic? It doesn't matter because, spoilers, that's the worst one. It's worse than Piranha 2. But what's in the middle, what's at the top? I don't know. I could tell you the truth, but maybe I'd be lying. What do I mean when I say that? Does that mean it's on the top, or does that just mean nothing? It's just me being cheeky. But you also get access to a fancy schmancy Discord channel and Discord roles, a monthly Q&A depending on the tier, and some other chats too. So if any of that interests you, or if you just want to support the stuff I do, again, that is patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day whenever it is you are watching or listening to this. But for now, adios, arrivederci, bye bye.
It's go time.